And I feel like one of our community questions was, is there anything from Burning Crusade that would entice a retail player to dive in? But I don't think you're really concerned about that. I think if they don't like, they like retail, they can play retail if they have classic thing, but you're not trying to switch people over. You're just giving them more options.
Yeah, it's more like let's grow the pie, right? Like I don't want to like make you stop playing Shadowlands to come play Classic. I want you to say like, well, maybe it wasn't my thing because I really liked Burning Crusade. Like, okay, well let's just give you Burning Crusade back. If that's what you wanted, let's give it to you. Let's bring more players in. Let's make this a bigger audience.
So John, you've been on the WoW team for quite a long time, and what advantages have you seen in technology that's helped you tremendously in Classic? What are some tools that you didn't have 15 years ago that you have now that you're using for Classic that you think are a godsend?
So I assume by tools you mean also the technology.
Yeah, the technology. Yeah, sorry.
Just the sheer fact that we're running off of our modern server technology and our live ops processes. I mean, there have been very few hiccups. I hate to say that because Murphy's probably listening.
Yeah.
Like when Encourage went out, it was pretty damn smooth. I mean, didn't have the server crashes that we experienced back in the day. As colorful as that was, it wasn't all that fun.
Right. We actually had screenshots. Oh, I'm sorry. Just to jump in on Encourage, we had screenshots like side by side of like Encourage then and Encourage today, and it was like, oh, people thought this was so many people, and we're looking at the side by side, like back then when they had hardly anybody there, and they had, compared to like how many people we got today, it was massive. It was really exciting to see that.
It's funny because I remember that in original when I played it, and my friends like, you need to log in and see this, and I logged in, and I think I got 3 frames a second before it crashed. I did not have a gaming PC, so I was like, my God, there's so many people. And the second people were like doing like their AOEs, people were like, stop, because their frame rate couldn't take it. But it was like those are the things that you don't get in retail anymore. Those once in a server moments that you experience. And it's good for new players to be able to see that if they weren't alive 15 years ago, or maybe were too young to play the game 15 years ago.
I totally agree.
If we have issues, it's usually like right at launch when we have a flood of people all hitting the enter button or at the same time, and there it's more on the front end, hitting authorization or getting into our database. It's like, oh my God, we just had this flood of people, hammering us. And so sometimes we've actually tried to spread things out a little bit. But more recently, we like doing global simultaneous launches, and I think our players love it because everyone feels like, we're on a level playing field. If I get the world first, it really is world first. But man, it's pretty crazy, back at the office when we're in an office. It was pretty crazy in everyone's home when we launched Shadowlands.
No kidding.
It's interesting because like the whole Classic experience with what you mentioned, like being the world's first and wanting to do that first on a server. Maybe you weren't first 15 years ago, but damn as hell you're gonna be first now. You know what I mean? Like you and your guild are gonna be first this time.
Yeah, like this is my chance. I could do it this time. Like maybe I have a different life situation, right? Like maybe back then I was, trying to study for finals, or maybe I just got a new job, or had a family, and maybe now is your chance. Maybe now it's just like, oh yeah, this is the time I can really put the effort in and really be the first person to do this. Like that's great to have that like second chance to do something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, there weren't influencers back then. People weren't streaming that stuff, and so it's such a buzz. I mean, it's like, man, the whole world gets to see you going after this, or influencers sharing, playing with each other, or even going after each other in the game, PvP situation, and that didn't exist then. So you might have shared that experience with some friends, or talked about it, amongst your player group, but now the whole world is talking about it, playing it, and you get to see it.
Now, I know you guys can't talk about too much about the future of Classic and the roadmap, but there's a lot of speculation. Like, is the goal, is the ultimate plan to just continue trying to keep the Classic formula intact as you go through all the expansions? I mean, like I said, we talked about what you decide to put in and pull out, because obviously the more recent you go, the more creature comforts are available and the less like Classic it becomes. But are you gonna have to redesign raids, to be more classic encounters rather than more modern encounters.
I was gonna say on the raid topic specifically, like the goal with touching raids is to make them be the pre-nerf versions. So like still authentic versions, but ones that were harder. And of course, like with bug fixes included, because sometimes they came at the same time. It was like, oh, let's fix a bunch of bugs in this mechanic, and also we'll reduce the difficulty. And it's like, okay, well, what if we could fix the bugs and not reduce the difficulty, so people could get a chance to give it a shot at that harder challenge level and still see it in a bug-free and still completable way. Like, how quickly can they do it now? Is this a challenge they can actually rise to? And so those are the kinds of tweaks we want to do. I don't think we would want to like completely redesign the raids.
Yeah, I think to your kind of larger question about the future of Classic, we had no idea that Classic was going to be this popular. We thought this is a love letter to our players. Our core players will want to go back and check it out. We don't know how long they'll stay with it, but we're going to do this anyway, and we were overwhelmed by, the number of people that jumped in and not only, checked it out, but continued to play it. And not just, the core players that may have been with us all along, but, people that we haven't seen in a long time, maybe 10 years, and new people that we've never seen before, jumping in and playing. So, this is a big, vibrant community for us. And, we know we have a responsibility to keep that community entertained. As to what the future holds, we kind of knew from BlizzCon when we announced Classic that Burning Crusade was a likely, because even then people are saying, well, are we going to go to Burning Crusade? But, we're going to watch and listen very carefully to the community, kind of see what they're asking for, what, how well the community, takes to Burning Crusade, and that's going to guide, what we do in the future. But we stand ready to serve that community.
I joke that like Classic will eventually become World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King semi-modern, and then semi-classic, and you'll have different offshoots, like, and then eventually you'll just port games that were this specific patch or this specific world, and people can play that version only.
So is that your particular request? Do I add that to the...
No, that's too much work. You play Classic? Yeah, but I play patch 2.1. Oh, I play 2.4. Damn, I think it's better. You know what I mean? Like, just then you have patch servers implemented. That can get insane really quickly.
Oh, I agree. I think John said this often. Like, we do want to make sure these are like vibrant and huge and like successful communities, and that's one of the reasons why we want to do this. Partly because of how successful it has been, is that we feel like this community is large enough that it could support both of these.
I still think there's a misconception that people think that since the game's technically, quote, done, right, that all you're doing is like doing this ports, but I know I don't think your common person knows there's a lot more involved in that. It's not just you taking the old code, setting up a server and saying, there you go, it's Classic. There's a lot of back-end work to be done. Can you guys talk about that back-end work?
Sure. I wish it was that easy, and indeed it is a huge challenge. There's like we talked about this in the deep dive panel as well, is there's like 750,000 rows of data that are all in the old format that don't run on modern code. Like, the modern code just doesn't understand how to read that. But of course we can convert that to the modern format that knows how to read something similar, and we have conversion processes that we've run on those like underlying data systems over time. And so what we're kind of doing is in a sense bringing that old data forward into the future. But one of the things that's challenging about Burning Crusade against even Classic is that we got all those scripts for converting 112 code to the modern formats, and then 112 data to the modern formats, and the 243 data is not the same as the 112 data. So we can't just use that same set of scripts. We actually have to like modify them, write new ones to convert the 243 data, and then double check that. And then we've got the 243 data on modern format, the 113 data on modern format, and notice I said the 113 data. So it's got like all of our bug fixes and changes that we made, like to make that thing more stable and exploit free. And then we've got to merge those so that we keep all of the fixes that we put into 113 over Classic's life, and then keep those with the Burning Crusade changes that were made at the time. So that's complicated and involves a lot of work. And also there's like things like the support for cloud infrastructure, our newer hotfixing mechanisms, and all of those things that have been developing over time with World of Warcraft. And as like new improvements to those systems, those kind of underlying core support systems happen in Shadowlands, we want to incorporate those changes too, and that's a lot of work to make sure that they're integrated with the way that the gameplay logic works in Classic. So it's a challenge to make sure that we maintain the classic behaviors of the gameplay engine while bringing forward all of these newer modern technologies in terms of like support and infrastructure.
And that's got to say, like, I mean, this applies a little bit more to modern than Classic, but just it's so impressive what your team is able to do with tools that are 16, with mechanics that are 16 years old. I mean, this game is old, and you guys, you've improved on it, you've built on it, but a lot of companies would have probably just scrapped it and made like and built from the ground up again and start over. But you guys keep the same coding, you guys keep adding on, and it works, and it keeps players coming back. And I think that's a tremendous accomplishment from a engineer and a developing and a design standpoint. Because what other game can survive 16 years in the same engine? Obviously you change it a little bit, obviously graphical enhancements, that kind of stuff, server technologies.
Thank you. And I agree. Like it is a challenge, and it is all an effort to the fact that we do continually make improvements. That we aren't actually, as much as we like to revere the past and bring the past forward and honor it, we don't find ourselves stuck in the past. We are trying to find ways to move forward and make sure that we advance the technology and keep things up to date with modern standards. And there's a huge engineering team. This is why it is important to note that even though there is a dedicated team working specifically on WoW Classic, it is the World of Warcraft team that supports WoW Classic. We couldn't do it without all of the great engineers across the entire World of Warcraft team. That is really helping us make sure that this product is fantastic, and also the art and design team. We reach out to them for support and advice as well.
I gotta give a shout out to our QA and customer service teams too. I mean,
of course.
QA, think about all the stuff that they have to retro test and make sure actually we didn't break something. And
I'm actually deeply embarrassed I didn't think to mention QA off the bat. They're deeply embedded with us. We have some incredible embedded testers who work with us directly every day, and they're fantastic. Huge shout out to them.
Yep, and I think one of them even is a raid leader, right?
Yeah, actually, my raid leader is our QA lead. He's fantastic.
I don't know how he has time to do that.
I don't either.
Well, you guys, it's an honor to talk to you guys. I mean, I've been playing the game on and off for 16 years. I was there at the launch. I'm still there today. I have a lot of fun memories of that stuff. It's great. I do dive in the classic every now and again just to be like, wow, it's come so far from watching your paladin sit there and hoping you proc to just going crazy and hitting a bunch of buttons. It's the journey alone is just incredible to me to step back and look at it and how far you've come since 2004 or 5? Can't remember. 5.
2004 is November 2004 when WoW first launched.
There we go. Yeah, it's insane to see how far it's come, and just I hope you guys continue to do great work. And when can people try Burning Crusade Classic? When will it be available to the public? When will it be available on a PTR?
It'll be available this year.
It's going to be available in 2021. And I know that we normally talk about things years in the future. This one's going to be available this year.
Awesome, you guys. And I think that's everything.
We're going to make it as soon as we can, but obviously you want us to get it right.
Right. Okay, we got to decide. There's a lot of engineering work. Just run an emulator. That's all you got to do. It's fine, right? Run it through an emulator.
We do have the old code, and we can run old versions of the game to do side-by-side comparisons, and we do that. But of course, like we said, that is a challenge in terms of it doesn't support all of our modern infrastructure, and it wouldn't actually work in a production environment.
Well, yeah, the expansion's 13 years old at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's an old game.
It takes a little bit of massaging even to get that working, but we do have this, so we can do side-by-side comparisons. It's a hugely useful tool.
It's like trying to run a DOS game on Windows 10. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You might get it to work, but it's some effort.
Janky.